نحمده ونصلي على رسول الكريم ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له ونشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. Respected viewers and listeners, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. In continuation of our Quranic understanding program, today we shall try to read and then understand a few more verses from chapter number 4, that's Al-Nisa, Surah Al-Nisa, starting from verse number 11. As I have been requesting you time and again, that when this program starts, you have to hold a copy of Quran plain without translation in your hands or on a Quran holder and focus your attention towards the verses which are under study. Now I request you one more thing, which I perhaps forgot to mention, that we have to do some bit of homework also, not to directly connect yourself with Quran. That homework is, once you attend this class, you focus your attention towards the verses and the translation and some explanations which will be provided here, not in detail, but just outline explanations. But after that, you have to do a homework. That means you have to study the translations available with you in any language which suits you, whether it's Urdu, English, or any other language. And people have translated it, some scholars have translated it. Let's benefit from their research and from their learning process. But we should also, so that we are not dependent on this class only. Just a request with this aim that everybody amongst us will get connected to Quran directly, so that at some stage we can read ourselves Quran and we will understand it ourselves. So this is a humble request. Please keep it in mind. Now we start today's lesson. It is from verse number 11, chapter An-Nisa, Surah An-Nisa. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. In the name of Allah, the most compassionate, the most merciful. Yusikumullahu fi awladikum. Allah instructs you regarding or concerning your children. That means distribution of inheritance for your children. Lidhakari, for a male, mislu hadil unsanain. Portion is equivalent to two females here. فَإِن كُنَّ النِّسَاءً فَوْقَ اثْنَتَيْنِ. But if a deceased person leaves behind more than two daughters, فَلَهُنَّ الثُّلُثَ مِمَّا تَرَكَ. For them is 2/3 out of what the deceased has left behind, his estate or his inheritance. وَإِن كَانَتْ وَاحِدَةً. If there's only one daughter left by the deceased, فَلَهَا النِّصْفُ. For her is half of the property left by the deceased. وَلِأَبَوَيْهِ. Similarly, for parents, لِكُلِّ وَاحِدٍ مِّنْهُمَ السُّدُسُ. For each of them, that's mother and father, there's a share of 1/6 for each. مِمَّا تَرَكَ. What is left behind by the deceased. إِن كَانَ لَهُ وَلَدٌ. Provided the deceased person had children. فَإِن لَمْ يَكُنْ لَهُ وَلَدٌ. If he doesn't leave behind children, وَوَرِثَهُ أَبَوَاهُ. And only parents are his legal heirs. فَلِأُمِّهِ الثُّلُثُ. Then in that case, for her mother is 1/3 of the property left behind. وَإِن كَانَ لَهُ إِخْوَةٌ. If the person concerned who dies, had brothers and sisters, فَلِأُمِّهِ السُّدُسُ. Then in that case, for her mother is 1/6. مِنْ بَعْدِ وَصِيَّةٍ يُوصِي بِهَا. After fulfilling any bequest or will which might have been made by the deceased person of dying, or after the liquidation of debt, if any. آبَاؤُكُمْ وَأَبْنَاؤُكُمْ. Your parents and your children. لَا تَدْرُونَ. You don't know of humans. أَيُّكُمْ أَقْرَبُ لَكُمْ نَفْعًا. Who is closer to you, nearer to you, as far as benefit is concerned. فَرِيدَةً مِّنَ اللَّهِ. These are portions, are ordinances from Allah. إِنَّ اللَّهَ كَانَ عَلِيمًا حَكِيمًا. Surely Allah is all-knowing and all-wise. وَلَكُمْ. And for you, O believers, nisfu is half. مَا تَرَكَ أَزْوَاجُكُمْ. What are your wives leave behind if they die? إِلَّمْ يَكُنْ لَهُنَّ وَلَدٌ, if they don't have any children. فَإِنْ كَانَ لَهُنَّ وَلَدٌ, if they had their children alive, فَلَكُمْ الرُّبُعُ, for in that case, O husbands, your portion is only 1/4. مِمَّا تَرَكْنَا, what your wives leave behind them. مِنْ بَعْدِ وَصِيَّةٍ يُوصِينَ بِهَا, after the fulfillment of the will or bequest, if any. أَوْ دَيْنٍ, or after the liquidation of debts. وَلَهُنَّ الرُّبُعُ, similarly for them, that means for if you die and you leave behind your wives, وَلَهُنَّ الرُّبُعُ, in that case, for them is 1/4 of مِمَّا تَرَكْتُمْ, what you leave behind, of your property or estate, what you leave behind for your wives is 1/4 if you die. إِلَّمْ يَكُنْ لَكُمْ وَلَدٌ, if you don't have children, if you don't leave behind children. فَإِنْ كَانَ لَكُمْ وَلَدٌ, if you leave behind children also, فَلَهُنَّ الثُّمُنُ, in that case, the part of your wives, for them is 1/8. مِمَّا تَرَكْتُمْ, what you leave behind. مِنْ بَعْدِ وَصِيَّةٍ تُوصُونَ بِهَا, after the bequest or the will, if made any. أَوْ دَيْنٍ, or after the liquidation of debts. وَإِنْ كَانَ رَجُلٌ, and if there's a person, a man, يُرَثُ كَلَالَةً, who dies, and he is kalala, that means having neither ascendants nor descendants. Imra, or even if a woman dies in such state, وَلَهُ أَخٌ أَوْ أُخْتٌ, and she has a brother or a sister, فَلِكُلِّ وَاحِدٍ مِّنْهُمُ السُّدُسُ, for each of them there is 1/6 out of what they leave behind. فَإِنْ كَانُوا أَكْثَرَ مِنْ ذَلِكَ, if they are more than that, they're more than 2 brothers and sisters, فَهُمْ شُرَكَاءُ فِي الثُّلُثِ, then their share is 1/3, from which they will get equal shares. مِنْ بَعْدِ وَصِيَّةٍ يُوصُوا بِهَا, after the fulfillment of the bequest or the will, if any, بِهَا أَوْ دَيْنٍ, or after the liquidation of debts. غَيْرَ مُضَارٍ, without causing any harm. وَصِيَّةٌ مِنَ اللَّهِ, these are the instructions from Allah. وَاللَّهُ عَلِيمٌ حَكِيمٌ, and Allah is Alimun Halim, and Allah is all-knowing and forbearing. تِلْكَ حُدُودُ اللَّهِ, these are the limits or laws of Allah. وَمَن يُطِعِ اللَّهَ وَرَسُولَهُ, and whoever obeys Allah and His Messenger, يُدْخِلْهُ جَنَّاتٍ, He will admit him in gardens, تَجْرِي مِن تَحْتِهَا الْأَنْهَارُ, beneath which flow streams, خَالِدِينَ فِيهَا, wherein they shall abide. وَذَلِكَ الْفَوْزُ الْعَظِيمُ, and that is the great reward and great attainment. وَمَن يَعْصِ اللَّهَ وَرَسُولَهُ, on the other hand, one who disobeys Allah and His Messenger, وَيَتَعَدَّ حُدُودَهُ, and transgresses His limits, يُدْخِلْهُ نَارًا, He will admit him in fire, خَالِدًا فِيهَا, wherein he shall abide. وَاللَّهُ عَذَابٌ مُهِينٌ, for them it will be humiliating punishment. Sadaqallahu al-Azim. These are very important verses. This is about the law of inheritance as prescribed by Quran. Here you have to remember one thing. The law of inheritance as prescribed by Quran is unparalleled in the annals of human history. You can imagine 1400 years back such a comprehensive law of inheritance promulgated. Even we see in 20th and 21st century great scholars, great philosophers, experts of laws of inheritance. They really, they admire and they suffer from some kind of shock. What kind of law it is? So comprehensive, so detailed, explaining everything, and in the shortest possible words. I remember expert from Harvard, who's expert, a world-renowned expert, who happened to be one of the advisors of late President Nixon of America. He writes in his books, he became a Muslim later, named Umar Farooq by Muslim name. He writes that I'm an expert in laws of inheritance. I have studied law and in law of inheritance in the light of modern knowledge. And when I studied Quran and the law of inheritance as prescribed in Quran, it is unparalleled, it's unmatched. I was convinced that this cannot be word of man. The way Quran, he writes that to explain the law of inheritance, to the way we need volumes after volumes. And as these laws have been explained. But it is surprising. Quran explaining things better than those volumes, but in just few paragraphs, few rukus or paragraphs. And perfectly, leaving nothing behind. Normal situations, Quran explains how to distribute inheritance in normal situations. Normal situation means a person dies, he has a family, he has wife and children. That's normal situation. What share his wife gets and how property to be distributed between his sons and daughters is a normal situation. He writes, this is normal. But Quran also explains the exceptional situation. And those exceptional situations are explained how to distribute this property, inheritance in such cases. If somebody dies, he has neither parents, neither ascendants nor descendants, nor parents nor children, nor grandchildren, nor grandfathers, nothing. And how to distribute it? The perfect law, Quran explains. And likewise, in any situation, this is something great. We need to feel proud about it, that we have such a great law. And number one. Number two, there should be no deviation in our daily lives from this law, because law of inheritance is revealed law. It is revealed by Allah. This is promulgated by Allah. These are ordinances of Allah the Almighty. Even Prophet has no role in it, except explaining, who made us these laws easier to comprehend. That's the role of the Prophet, peace be upon him. Otherwise, these laws are divine. There's no scope for alteration. We cannot move just a hairline left or right. We cannot. Because these are laws of God. Quran is the word of God. We have perfect belief in it. That's why Prophet, peace upon him, said, one who tries to change the law of inheritance Allah will be angry with him. Anger of Allah will fall upon them. And he will be roasted in the fire of hell. And there is no forgiveness for him because he has violated the law. So this in this situation, you see what was before Quran, that's quite evident. There was an error of ignorance anywhere in the world, not in Arabia, throughout the world. We don't find in history such a perfect, comprehensive law. And a special feature, as I told you last time, that according to Quranic law, women got rights of inheritance for the first time in history. Women were themselves considered a commodity, an inheritance. If a person died and polygamy was the rule. People had many wives, 4, 5, 10, 20. There was no limit to it. And after the death of a person, the way the wealth he left behind was distributed, but that too unjustly. Only males and young males who could fight, only shares for them. No rights for women, no inheritance for toddlers, that means these kids, or nothing for sisters, nothing for wives. Quran explains no laws of inheritance for everybody. Everybody, men, women, they are the inheritors. They will inherit in according to ratio and proportion as explained by Quran. This is something extraordinary, admirable. And I was telling you, when a person would die and he would leave behind his wives, even when his property was divided, that estates or what he left behind, the same way his wives were considered a commodity or inheritance, and they were also distributed among his legal heirs, among his sons. And they would take custody of them, they would become their masters. Imagine, in such trying circumstances, in such dark days, Quran lays the foundations. And those foundations are perfect. Even in 20th and 21st century, everybody gets enlightened by these laws. Unparalleled, unmatched, simply. The first verse talks about the basics of inheritance. How? Yusikum Allah. Allah instructs you, fi awladikum, concerning your children. That means after your death, how your property, what you leave behind, your estate, how it is to be distributed. The basic feature of the Islamic Quranic law of inheritance is lidhakari, for a male, that means for son, is misla hadil unsayn, share equivalent to two females. That means son gets double and daughter gets half of it. Two daughters share is equal to one son's share. Some people object to it without trying to even understand it. They immediately, without thinking, without pondering about it, without reflecting on, start God for blaming Quran. Blaming Quran is blaming God. This is the word of God. This perfect law, and as Quran explains, based on divine knowledge and divine wisdom. So nobody can question this law. And as far as this part is concerned, they say some people feel they are fearful, they are apprehensive. Sometimes they are in doubt because we don't read Quran, we don't understand, we don't try to go into the depth of it. Answers are there in Quran and in the logic which Allah has provided with through our neurons and through our mind. If we have to understand Allah, because yes, we have to see. Firstly, Islam is a perfect system. It's not to be taken in patches. According to Islam, life of a human being is well integrated, well coordinated. That's why Quran guides on all these subjects of human life, right from birth to death. In every dimension, whether it's nikah or it may be talaq and divorce, whether it's social relations or political affairs, personal laws or international laws. It deals with everything, every bit of it, how to walk, how to talk, how to move, how to pray, how to feed poor, how to go for charity, how to do anything good to others. Quran guides on everything. That is a perfect system and it is to be understood. Every law of Quran is to be understood within the parameters of that perfect system. And according to that system, there is a division of labor. In a family, man has been declared as head of the family and he has to play his role. That doesn't mean he is an autocrat, he's a dictator. He has to always keep a stick or a sword in his hand and crash. No, he has to serve his family, he has to earn. He has to use all his sources, with mental, physical, psychological, go here and there, wander in the world, as Quran prescribes that he has to earn with hard labor. And it is his duty, it is his obligation. He cannot shirk from this responsibility. And he has to feed the family. Whereas this responsibility has not been put on the shoulders of a woman. She has to take care of her house. And that's equally, sometimes I feel that role is perhaps more important than the role of a husband. He only earns and brings money to house. Whereas a woman has to do everything. Taking care of the kids, cooking and washing, and everything, taking care of the sick, taking care of children and her husband. That means I often feel if a husband earns 1,000, whether dollars or pounds, and woman, because he works, and a woman works at home, I calculate it. She earns at least 3 times more what her husband earns. So why should she feel ashamed? Why should she suffer from any inferiority complex? How come anybody blaming her that Islam declares inferior to a man? She is not, as far as love, affection, home caring, and many more respects. If you ask me, I'll tell you that way in certain many respects, she is much superior to a man. No man can match a woman as far as some basics are concerned. So there's nothing like that. But this is division of labor. That's why, since man has to feed the family, he needs to get more. On the other hand, a girl or a daughter, it's not a responsibility. She gets half of it, right? But still she's not at the receiving end. She's not a loser because she has other avenues. See, I'll tell you. If she gets half of the share of brother's share from her parents, from her mother or father, all right? Then, when she gets married, she, as we see just in the next verse number 12, here just now, she gets a good portion from the inheritance of her husband too. She gets that share too. She has a right for that. So how come she feels that I'm inferior? She gets this prescribed law for women. There's right from the property left by their husbands. They have a share either 1/4 if they are childless or 1/8 if they have children. So there's definite right. Number 2, number 3. At the time of marriage, come on, at the time of marriage, when a man and a woman gets married, it's an obligation. No marriage can solemnize. No nikah can be performed or fulfilled unless that just yesterday. Nisa sadaqatina nihla. O men, when you marry a woman, give them bridal gifts, that is mahar, graciously. So a man at the time of marriage has to give a good amount of money, whether in kind or cash, whether in cash, dollars, pounds, rupees, or any currency, or in the form of gold or land or anything. For women, that till then, no marriage can solemnize. So she gets that. And she has to spend nothing. She gets it. Share from father, right? Of course, half. Bridal gifts, mahar, depending upon the finance. It's not to be just for pennies, for dimes. No, Quran prescribes al-musi qadaru wa al-muqsiri qadara. Rich has to give according to his own financial status, and poor according to his own status. So she gets good amount of money, and that's hers. And number 3, then from husband's share, she gets 1/4 or 1/8. So combine it all together. Sometimes it becomes more than a man gets it. And number 2, she's under no obligation to feed a family. This is her wealth. Sometimes I feel if my wife gets some amount, 1,100,000, 500, it is hers. She is not expected to spend a penny on the household. That's my duty as husband. Even if I have million, that million will be dried up. It can get up within few days or within few months. Well, what is with woman? It's the security, financial security for future. She gets 3/4 from her father. Number that from marriage from husband as a bridal gift, a good amount. We can't shirk our responsibility. We can't just make it a formality. We have to do it according to financial status. We husbands. And number 3, she gets a share from her husband at the time of his death. And last but not the least, that woman, she gets all these years here and there and there. She is under no obligation to spend anything out of it for family, for kids, for husband or anything else. It is hers. It is her will. If she offers own option, offers will, she may spend for betterment of house or for sometimes future children, but that's not an obligation. It's the responsibility of husband. Now tell me, where is injustice? Though there's no injustice. Sorry, some crude comment. There may be with males, not at least for the female injustice. They are under no obligation, but they have their wealth. Yes, they can take care of themselves. It's a security. That's what Quran says. Yusikum Allah fi awladikum. Allah instructs you concerning your children, how to spend that inheritance after your death among your children. لِلذَّكَرِ مِثْلُ هَذِا الْأُنْثَيَيْنِ. For a male is share a portion from the deceased property equivalent to 2 females. Now is it clear? Any injustice? Tell me, why does injustice come? It's injustice from our minds, weak minds. We are fools. We are not ready to understand the Quran and then apply our mind. I've been telling you time and again, one of the basic reasons of the revelation of Quran, among many reasons, is activation of human mind. It means the Quran should activate our minds, and answers are there. Then Quran said, this is normal course. But Quran said, فَإِن كُنَّ نِسَاءً فَوْقَ اثْنَتَيْنِ. But if the deceased leaves behind more than 2 daughters, as told the Prophet explains, it applies to 2. 2 or more than 2 daughters, no sons at all. Then what is to be done to the wealth? Number 1, which according to the next verse, first wife has to be, as in the previous instance, first wife will get 1/4 or 1/8. then the rest of the property is to be divided among sons and daughters. But if there are two or more than two daughters only, but that wife will be also there. If she is living, she first gets 1/8 out of that. And then for when kunna nisan fawqa, please remember, this is not a class for all explaining all the legalities, because this is a comprehensive law. Prophet Quran is here, Prophet peace be upon him explained it. And then Muslim experts of jurisprudence compiled a comprehensive law based on Quran and Sunnah. So this is not to understand all those intricacies. This is beyond the scope of this discussion. I'm just giving you outline because as Muslims, since we read Quran, we must understand it. We must have at least outline of Islamic law. For details, for intricacies, we need to consult experts of Muslim laws or the experts of Muslim law of inheritance. So it is fine Quran Nisan fawqa. If a person dies, I explain in my own words, and he has no son. There are two or more than daughters, two or more than two daughters. Then falahunna thulutha ma tarak. For them is 2/3 of what the deceased leaves behind. 2/3. Firstly, the share of his wife, then 2/3. And 1/3 was that to be distributed from to other relatives, which will be explained later. And if there's only one daughter left behind by the deceased, no son, only one daughter, not only everything goes to her, for her is half of that inheritance, that amount or estate or property left by the deceased. If only one daughter is illegal here, she gets 1/2. We have to remember it. Then, this is another point, how Quran explains in the easiest possible language. A man of street can understand it. A most expert from Harvard, Cambridge, and the legal luminaries can appreciate, and they have been appreciating the beauty of Quranic statements. Then comes Wali Abawaihi. And for parents, if a person dies and his parents are also alive, Walikul Abawai, then share of children also, but share of fathers also there. Wali Abawai, and for the parents, Likuli Wahid minhum as-sudus. If when the person dies and his parents are alive, both parents get 1/6. 1/6 part of the wealth left behind for father and 1/6 for the mother. So their interests also safeguarded. Quran explains the law. See intricacies, see beauty. Mimma tarak, what is left behind by the deceased, right? In kana lahu walad, this 1/6 and 1/6 shall go to father and mother 1/6. If the deceased had children also, because the rest of the property will be distributed among children. Son double, daughter half, single share. That's right. But Quran says, exceptional circumstances, فَإِنْ لَمْ يَكُنْ لَهُ وَلَدٍ. If the deceased didn't leave behind a son, for children, no children, only then only parents are legal heirs. Parents become here. In that case, 1/3 of the property left behind by the deceased, 1/3 shall go to mother, and the rest is 2/3. 2/3 goes to father automatically. See the law. And here an important point is an answer to those people who say, if grandfather is alive, son, as I explained it yesterday, son dies and there are children, they'll be left right and right. As you said, they get azam. They are deprived of the rights. I mean, if in presence of grandfather, son has no right over property, how come his property? Quran explains how to distribute it. Even father and mother get a portion out of it. That means what the law we are trying to misunderstand, not keeping all the dimensions of Quran before, leads us astray. We sometimes misinterpret law. Well, it is clear that yes, in presence of father, son has a right to possess, and he can possess. What our grandchildren deprived from is only the grandfather's share, because that has not gone to son. How come it can go to grandchildren? Otherwise, the things which have earned, the wealth which a person has earned in his lifetime, even in presence of his father, he is the owner, he's a master. He's a custodian of that, and that is to be distributed. That is what Quran explains. So how come we misinterpret, we misuse due to our superficial knowledge Quran? And for the parents, for each father and mother, 1/6 father, 1/6 mother. What's left behind by the deceased, right? In kana lahu walad. Provided if the deceased has children also, the rest of the property shall go to the children. فَإِلَّمْ يَكُنْ لَهُ وَلَدٍ. If the deceased didn't have children, وَوَرِثَ أَبَوَاهُ, only parents become his legal here. They are the inheritors. Then فَلِأُمِّهِ الثُّلُثُ. Then in that case for the mother is 1/3 what the deceased leaves behind. The son leaves behind. For the mother goes 1/3, and rest remains 2/3. That shall automatically go to father, right? فَإِنْ كَانَ لَهُ إِخْوَةٌ. But if the deceased, on more condition, if the deceased person has brother or sister, they have his brother or sister. When كَانَ لَهُ إِخْوَةٌ. If the deceased has brothers, sisters, فَلِأُمِّهِ السُّدُسُ. In that case, 1/6 shall go to mother. Mean by the wasiyatin yusi biha. These shares are to be distributed after fulfilling the bequest or will, if the deceased had made any, or liquidation of avdain, or liquidation of these debts. So I'll tell you, Prophet peace upon him explained it like this. I'll try to make it explain in simple words. That when a person dies, he has children, he has wife, he has parents. Now he leaves behind estate. He leaves behind some wealth, property. What is to be done? In the light of Quran, as explained by Prophet peace upon him, because he is the interpreter of Quran. You and me cannot. Quran was revealed to him and he made it easier for us. What is to be done? Please remember, it is very important, which we generally forget in practice, because we don't know the law. A person leaves behind some property, it's not to be disturbed. Number one, what's to be done? Firstly, funeral expenses are to be taken out of this funeral. For the shroud, what we say, coffin, the cloth in which is to be buried, and rest of the things which are concerned, digging of the grave, if you have to pay the laborers for digging of the grave, are related matters. Firstly, when a person dies, that these obligations are to be fulfilled. That means burial rights, expense of burial rights are to be paid from deceased property, right? Number two, the Quran says first, bequest or will to be fulfilled, and then debt, but Prophet explained, no, it is like this, as because Prophet was taught by Allah the Almighty. He said, no, after taking out the burial or funeral expenses. And here again I tell you, funeral expenses doesn't mean arranging feasts, arranging wazwans and feasts to feed the people. That's not, these are feasts, expenses which are necessary. Not any things extravagantly spend anything. Okay, number two, then whatever is left behind. Firstly, you have to see if the person concerned is under debt. If there is debt, he owes money for somebody, that's to be taken from his estate. First, debt is to be paid. And then what is left behind, then it is to be seen. It is to be checked from his wife, from his sons, from his brothers, or other concerned people. Oh man, tell us if this deceased person had made any bequest or will. That's to be fulfilled. But Prophet explained that will, it has to be only up to 1/3 of the property left. Nobody can make a will or bequest that after my death, my whole property should go to such masjid. Though it appears to be a good thing. My whole property which I live in should go to that orphanage, or some social reform institute, or such and such hospital. Nothing to such bequest which violates the law of Quran is to be rejected point blank. And the scope of will is to be reduced to 1/3, not beyond that. First funeral expenses, then debt to be liquidated, if he owes money to invest that, and what's left behind, then it will be checked. If he's made, because making a will is not an obligation, it's an option left with the deceased. If at all he has made any, it's not necessary. Sometimes it becomes necessary, as I explained to you yesterday, that if you feel grandchildren are deprived of some sort of inheritance, there's will. Why you can make a will up to 1/3 for your dear, your own parts of your body. They are your body and soul. They belong to you. But they're orphans. They're destitutes. They are in need of your help. So their Quran has left that you can. But going for a will or bequest is not a must. It's not an obligation. It's an option. But that is to be only up to 1/3 of the property left behind by the deceased. And after fulfilling these, then about will, we have to see one more thing. That the people of men of wisdom, who will be responsible for the distribution of this inheritance of the deceased, shall take care. If will is against the law, then that will not be entertained. The basic law is one thing, that la wasiyatul liwaris, Prophet said. You cannot make a will that once I die, this portion of amount should be given to my son. No, son already is illegal here. He takes this here. You cannot say this person should be given to my daughter. She is poor. She should give to her. No wasiyatul liwaris. For waris, for wife, for son, for daughter, who will automatically inherit. You cannot make a will in their favor. It is to be made to others who are not legal here, who are somehow deprived or poor, or for any good cause you can, but not for legal. Number 2, that will should not be for any un-Islamic activity. Somebody makes a will, as we see in our city. Okay, when I die, the fourth day should be celebrated with pomp and show. You should invite all the neighbors, all relatives, and make a good feast. Don't allow them to go hungry. They should be fed properly. This appears to, and people fulfill it. Just mother, respective mother has made a will. Father has made, dad has made a will. This violates the law. Similarly, somebody said such and such amount should be spent on some work which is anti-Islamic, immoral, unethical. That will that's not that you need not feel, you have to reject that will. Because will is mine. Law is Allah's. So can my will alter the law of God? How innocent we pretend to be? And we should not be innocent in such cases. Why? We have to see, can my will is my word, can my word alter the divine law? It cannot do this. Some three things are to be considered. That's why Quran says, Aba'akum wa abna'akum, your parents and your children. La tadrun ayyuhum aqrabu lakum. You don't know who are nearer to you. Nafa, as far as benefit is concerned. That was the way Allah has prescribed the law of inheritance, how to distribute it among your parents, among ascendants, among your descendants. Don't try to intervene. Don't try to interfere, because you don't know. Allah knows who should get what, who are nearer to you in benefit. Forget about it. In Allah alima, because Allah is all knowledgeable. He has what knowledge you possess. Oh, human being, what knowledge you have. You are a tiny speck in this universe. You are nothing in comparison to your Creator. In Allah kana alima, He has all the knowledge. Hakima, and He is wise. That means His laws of inheritance are based on His knowledge and on His wisdom. So don't try to violate. So we stop here, because that time is already over for us. This is very important. Please take care. And this law continues. In next sittings, we shall see another dimension of the distribution of law of inheritance. That is between spouses, husband and women, wives share. What is that? Sadaqallahu al-Azim.